Hey, good
Good.
morning, Tracy.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good. I have to say that I just feel this is going to be a fantastic show. And since last week, I've had loads of really good feedback from people. Um,
Fabulous.
and I've got people with bated breath waiting for this one after I've told them what we're doing. So I'm really hoping they're going to love this as much as last week's.
Absolutely. I think, once we start to uncover these woundings, and as you've said in the podcast, people may not recognize them by the name that they are given, but they should start to recognize perhaps some traits from the wounding that will understand or help
Yeah.
them to understand kind of, what we're talking about and what shows up for them so that they can start to heal it.
Mm,
I think the mother wound was a massive one that we did last week, but
yeah.
also we're talking about the father wound today, which
Yeah.
is incredibly deep. And I feel that the father wound is the rebellious one,
Oh, okay.
which I think is quite nice. So we're talking about, how that comes up. So do you want to start or do you want me to jump straight in?
I'm happy for you to jump straight in. What I would say is if you didn't watch The Mother Wound from last week, definitely go and watch it because it's so revealing. So definitely get yourself there.
Absolutely. And of course, we've done the witch wound and the priestess wound as well. So we're really digging deep into these different woundings to help you to move forwards and help give you, a great understanding of some of the things that we don't realize hold us back. And when we're talking about the mother wound and the father wound, we are not placing blame on our parents. Okay,
No,
what we're doing is recognizing what's come up. I think it's important that we know that, they did the best job that they knew how to do,
mm,
but it means sometimes we've come up with different woundings, right?
yeah. And the thing to bear in mind is that when we blame, we're looking outside of ourselves. And all of what we're talking about, our souls agreed. It's almost like you've gone round with your shopping basket and you've gone, right, I'm going to have some guilt, a bit of mother wound, or I'm going to have a lack of confidence, chuck that in. It's not about blame. We chose the parents, we chose the environment that would give us the best chance of achieving what we needed to. So actually, we should be thanking them.
Yeah,
So when I'm working with people and I'm helping them to heal and create the life they want and be the person that they want, it's all about acknowledging that this was pre-planned and that this is part of a bigger picture and that you've got to work with it.
absolutely.
Oh, got me WhatsApp on. Let's turn that off. Sorry, people.
Absolutely. These wounds, trauma, and all of those things, they help us to grow and expand, not only in this lifetime, but for our next lifetime, as well. And when we put blame on other people, we're in victim mentality,
Absolutely.
right? Which we do not want to be in because we lose all control when we're in victim mentality and we become stuck and we become blameful, resentful, and all of those different energies. So I found, like, through my own healing journey, it's important for me, to thank the whatever it was, the victim mentality that I've been in, or the mother wound that I've been in, and thank that experience because it's helped me to grow, it's helped me to expand, and it's helped me to understand myself on a deeper level.
Absolutely. And, just yesterday I did a platform evening. It's the first one I've done for 5 years.
Wow.
And the human part of me was having a field day. The human part of me is like, oh my God, what if I mess it up? What if I'm no good? What if I've forgotten how to do it? Because it's been 5 years. So I had a terrible night's sleep the night before. So yesterday I was really tired. And I'm like, oh, this is really going to help. So, my human self actually tried to sabotage it. And as it was, we had such a fantastic evening. It was brilliant. We're still buzzing this morning, which is great. And I'm like, oh my God, all that time and energy that I put into like disempowering myself over this yesterday and then today completely different, but that's what we do. So actually
Mm.
I have to take back that power and go, look, the only person that would have messed this up is you, spirit. We're not going to let you down. They weren't going to go, right, we're not playing, we don't want to come tonight.
Yeah.
And so that lack of confidence, that lack of self-belief, it's all the human side of us.
Absolutely.
But I
Absolutely.
chose that to help me realize that, just don't do that anymore. I'm not saying I'm perfect or I'm fabulous or I'm the best, because I don't believe in all of that. But at the end of the day, I needn't have stressed myself out. But I chose yesterday on a soul level to go, look, Tracy, sort yourself out.
Absolutely. And, we're never going to be perfect. We've come here to learn so many lessons. And I know I've chosen a lot of different lessons to learn. And, maybe I will get through them all, maybe I won't. But if I do, I'm still not going to be perfect because I'll still have things to learn in the next lifetime.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's important. Sometimes we're going to have ups, sometimes we're going to have downs. I mean, I have complete chaos going on most of the time. But it's about, bringing myself back to that center to be able to get on with the things that I need to do. So, as you're listening to this, as you're going through this journey of healing, of um, expansion, don't be hard on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really great comment, because I know how hard I've been on myself over the years. And sometimes that actually makes me go further. I want to try harder. I want to give more. But then other times, like yesterday, it just makes my life a misery. And it's like, well, that was completely pointless.
Yes,
So, this is about acknowledging that we're basically in university, we're learning a maths degree or whatever it is. And even when we finish the course, we're not going to know everything.
exactly.
But then there's another course that we can go and do to master that if we want to. So, it is about knowing that there's lots of things going on that aren't in the external world. They're not technically beyond our control, but until you identify it, it's like walking along and keeps going, ow, ow. And well, unless you take your shoe off and take the stone out and go, oh, yeah, that's why it hurt, you know. And I think it's very easy as humans to be so busy, busy, busy that we don't go and look at ourselves and go, okay, so what is going on here that I need to do some work on or understand, or just go, oh, right, okay, I can let that go then, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And these things we need to be taught. Like it doesn't necessarily come naturally when we think about society and what we're taught in schools, which is a whole nother episode. Um, we're not taught to heal. And we're talking about the father wound today. We're talking about masculine energy. And men are taught to not show emotion,
Yeah,
right? Which means they're not going to go in and look at, okay, so this keeps happening in my life, or, I feel disconnected to that. And society has a lot to do with this, what we're taught.
yeah,
So, thinking, oh, actually, if I look at this and I understand what the core issue or problem is, I can solve it for myself. We're just taught to go to the doctor
yeah,
or to not show our emotions or, whatever that may be. So, as part of this podcast, we really want to help you to learn to self-check in, to
mm,
self-heal, to raise your vibration and give you understanding of some of the things that come up and how you can heal them yourself without involving drugs, as in medication, or staying in the same cycles and repeating the same patterns.
yeah, absolutely. And, it's all about healing ourselves. I would love it if everybody in the world did what we do, and
Mm,
therefore they don't need doctors and they don't even need us,
mm,
because that's where the power is understanding that if your body is going wrong, mind, body, or soul, then that's your body sending you a message. Look to your spirit to find out what the message is and then heal it. So I'm very much about heal yourself, heal your life, and be your own guru. We're not gurus. We don't know everything. I don't pretend to. You don't pretend to.
exactly. Exactly. But I think, one of the important things is Mother Earth has given us everything we need for healing. We're going to get colds, we're going to get different viruses come up with, everything that's going on. And we can heal ourselves through the herbs and the natural medicine that is provided for us.
Mm.
and our guides, spirit, will help us to identify what it is that we actually need. Do we need to clear something? Do we need to, boost our immune system?
Yeah.
What is it that we need? Everything is available for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into this
Yes.
fatherhood. I'm really, really worried about what I'm going to recognize and go, oh, I need to work on that. So bring,
Absolutely, absolutely. So the father wound again is an emotional and an energetic wound that forms through absence, rejection, neglect, control is a big one, and perhaps a distortion of masculine energy. So this is going to come from your father or father figure, okay? And it's usually experienced through the relationship that you have with that dominant male in your life. So it's not about blame, it's not about what your father did or didn't do. It's about the energetic imprint that's been left on our inner masculine energy, right?
yeah,
So this will affect our stability, our protection, even our purpose as well. If you start thinking about, perhaps some of the things that the father role said to you, like, you're not good enough, or, that's not the right path for you, or, whatever it may be, it is very related to authority. We connect authority to the masculine energy,
yeah,
right? Because like mostly it's been men in power. Like we all look up to our fathers as the authority within the family.
yeah,
So this will affect, how we take action, and how we connect with our divine masculine energy moving forwards.
mm,
So we may feel unsafe, right? We may have difficulty trusting others because we haven't received that love, connection, stability, protection from our own fathers, right? We may have trouble taking action. When you think about the masculine energy, it's very much about that action taking, isn't it? So
yeah,
we may have trouble taking action and moving ourselves forwards, or we may struggle with self discipline, boundaries, consistency, safety, protection, all of those different elements. And this is where I feel that the rebel energy can come in, because if we've experienced shaky foundations from the masculine energy, we might want to rebel, right? So rebel against law and order and structure and discipline and rules and regulations and all of those different things, because they are all masculine energy,
mm,
right? So that causes that rebellion. And if we've been in a relationship with the masculine figure, the father figure, that has been very controlling, we're going to rebel against that,
yeah.
right? So,
And that can be like maybe a grandparent, or if you've got a stepfather, or even just your mother's partner,
yep,
or even just anyone in the family. Like if you've got a dominant uncle, or maybe you went to school or boarding school and there was a really dominant teacher who, was like a drill sergeant, that's going to play into it as well. So it isn't always the obvious. Maybe if you've got a dominant sibling that was the father figure in the family, that can do it as well.
absolutely. There are so many different people. It doesn't have to be our father, it will be that dominant energy. When, we were in early childhood, that has the biggest impact on us. So your father may have been there, but being energetically disconnected. So you may feel unloved, you may feel unwanted or unprotected by that father, even though, he was there, he just wasn't emotionally connected
Hmm.
to you. So there's lots of different ways that this energy can show up, right? You may have felt abandoned by your father because he couldn't emotionally connect you, or maybe if your parents got divorced, you may feel he betrayed you.
Hmm.
So there's lots of different ways that this can really show up. And of course, then we've got the ancestral and generational wounding
Yeah.
that comes through the men of not being allowed to, I don't know if allowed is the right word, but haven't nurtured their families, their children. And it is something that travels through the male ancestral line, right? Um, so, and also we mentioned that men have been taught, like across lifetimes and timelines, to not show their emotions. So
Yeah.
emotionally connecting to you may have been really difficult because it may have felt going against the grain or not supposed to do that. You know, society says I'm not supposed to show my children emotion.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Tracy, but I know, growing up, and this is going to cover two subjects here. Growing up with parents, they never talked about money. They never talked about security. They never talked about mortgages. They never talked about, that family unit that involved money or talking about emotions or, what's going on. It almost felt like everything was hidden.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's going to have an impact because we didn't know as children, like what was going on with money. Did we have enough money? Were we going to survive? Was there problems paying the mortgage and bills? Because there was no emotion connected to that. And I certainly didn't dare ask questions.
Don't think it ever crossed my mind. I mean, everything we needed was provided. We had a roof over our head, food on the table. And I remember, like in the UK in the mid to late 70s, we had the 4-day working week, and the power would just suddenly go off because there wasn't enough power to supply the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about it the other day. My parents actually moved house during that, and they up bought, they didn't downsize. So I'm like, wow, my mum and dad must have been okay financially. You wouldn't saddle yourself with a bigger mortgage in those uncertain times if you
Mm-hmm.
were like, flipping heck, how am I going to survive?
Yeah.
And then for me, it was a game of two halves because my parents did divorce and my parents both remarried. And eventually I went to live with my mum, and that was a totally different kettle of fish. Lots of insecurity, lots of rows about money, which I'd never come across. So I sort of saw both sides of the coin, excuse the pun. Um, and it is, I think it is disconcerting as a child because if you've never really been part of that conversation and suddenly it's fairly dominant, that's very what's the right word, it kind of messes with your energy, your thinking, your emotions. And
Mm.
so, I'm not saying that parents should sit down and go through their finances with the kids with a fine tooth comb, but I do feel like there needs to be more conversation about money and the value of money and respecting money and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's not even done in schools.
No, no, it isn't. No.
So, um, I really linking this to the father wound, like you wouldn't go and ask your dad, your father, are we okay for money? How does the mortgage get paid? It's just completely disconnected. And I know it's a little bit different now because I talk to my children about it all the time because I know that they're not learning it. Well, they've all left school now, but they didn't learn anything about money or budgeting, bank accounts, mortgages, nothing,
No.
right?
But I think definitely in the UK, I don't know about other countries, so if you're watching elsewhere, if this isn't true for you, but certainly in the UK, it was always considered not dirty, but just déclassé to
Taboo.
talk about finances. It's just, you don't do it. It's
Mm,
crass. And so I think that's played in. Plus,
yeah.
the male has traditionally been the breadwinner, and the
Hmm.
female has been the carer or the nurturer. And
Yeah.
that still is true to some extent, but it's also something that's changing a lot. Um, and so I think like we just put all our faith in the father to fetch up and pay the bills. Whereas I know a lot of people who actually had very challenging lives because their father was a gambler and gambled
Mm,
everything away.
yeah.
Excuse me. So, um, there was a lot of that in the background. And because you didn't talk about finances, you didn't know what was going on until the bailiffs fetched up and kicked you out the house.
Exactly. Exactly. And that I feel has like, a connection on society, but also the father figure not
Mm.
being able to emotionally speak about, the different things that are going on, and what it takes to run a household, you
Yeah.
know. So I think, certainly a lot of that has come through. I know that my grandfather was a gambler. My mum's mentioned that a few times.
Mm.
But, as soon as money came in, that's what they went to do. They got their wages, they paid the housekeeping, and the rest they gambled away, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to have an impact in different areas, and it's going to show up differently for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So we can only, give you ideas of the kind of things that are going to show up with the father wound. So things like needing to prove ourselves because we've never had that emotional connection, or been told that we're great, or we've done well, or I'm proud of you.
Mm.
Right. We're going to struggle with discipline, structure, consistency, because we want to rebel against it. There'll be a fear of stepping into authority, leadership, or even making decisions,
Yeah.
right? And that's a big one. I mean, I know I struggle sometimes to make decisions. I do think that's my Pisces energy as well. Because like it's always like, yeah, but if I do this, I could do that. And if I did that, I could do that. So decision making, I certainly find can be a little bit difficult. So possibly related to this, but also avoidance of confrontation, or it's another word for assertiveness, asserting yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because you may feel like you want to shrink, or you don't know how to respond or interact without making things worse, maybe.
And I think some of that is ancestral and generational,
For
because
sure.
it's not that long ago that children, as we've said before, were meant to be seen and not heard, and preferably not seen either if you went back to Victorian times.
Yeah.
Um, and children weren't encouraged to question their elders, it was disrespectful.
Yeah.
If somebody said to you, oh, Labour's brilliant, blah, 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 and we're working class, we're going to vote Labour, you definitely were not encouraged to then go, well, actually, what do you think about the Tories? It was like, no, we're Labour through and through, or we're Catholic through and through. And even if, like I was talking about it with my mother-in-law recently, she stopped going to church as a Catholic because she disagreed with a lot of things as she got older, like having to not use birth control, and not being able to get divorced and things like that. And she said, I just disagreed, so I stopped going. But if that was a child, even like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, that kind of age where you do have thoughts and opinions,
Mm.
you just would not have been allowed to question a lot of the things that our parents just not took as granted, but set in stone.
Yeah.
And so, if you knew that if you questioned it, the church or your father was going to come down on you like a ton of bricks, you just wouldn't. So then you've got the generational, along with the, well, I really want to share my opinion or make a decision, but if I do, I'm going to come unstuck and get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there's a lot with this. I mean, you may be like hyper independent, for example, because you've not had that masculine energy to rely on, or you may find you'll be a people pleaser, right? It can
Yeah.
be both extremes. You don't take action on your goals, or you feel unsupported even when there are people around you really supporting you. So do you want to talk about the physical symptoms that will show up, Tracy?
Oh, there's so many. Well, this is all around identity and security. So we're looking at the first root chakra and the second, which is the sacral chakra. So,
Hmm.
excuse me, as soon as I start talking about spiritual stuff, my throat chakra goes. Um, so this is going to affect everything in the lower part of the body. So
Yeah.
it's going to affect your kidneys, it's going to affect the sexual organs, it's going to affect your legs, it's going to affect your bones. So it can have a big effect. Excuse me. Obviously, it can affect the throat chakra because we don't feel that we can express ourselves. We don't feel that we're heard. So we feel like we can't be our true self. Okay. We're trying to conform what our father or caregiver wants us to be like. And so I think this is why so many women have thyroid dysfunction,
Mhm.
because we're just not encouraged to think for ourselves. We're almost supposed to pick up our parents' beliefs and run with it, whether it suits us or not.
Mm.
Um, so I do see a lot of issues um, with people that are dealing with this wound. And in men, it can really affect their masculine feminine energy. I don't mean that they can become, bisexual or feminine, like become she. It's more about the fact that they're much more in their feminine energy because they don't feel they can be in their masculine energy. And so,
Mhm.
as we said last week, the feminine energy is all about creativity, it's all about being, whereas the masculine is all about doing. Okay,
Yeah.
so you might find that there's things like creative blocks, like writer's block or spiritual blocks, where they just can't get into their intuition and stuff. Um, and there's this need to be more masculine, but they can't find out how to do it. So they actually end up disempowering themselves and feeling like they've got no choice, they've got no authority, and have to just do what they're told and go with the flow. And
Mm.
they'll more often than not end up in a job where they're just told what to do and how to do it, like the army. Now, you would think army, roughy tufty, totally masculine energy. But a lot of the guys that end up in the army are looking for something they were not getting in their family. And so they'll end up in the armed forces where they're told what to do and how to do it, but at the same time, they're incredibly masculine. But it may actually cause more conflict because it's not really right for them. And I think
Mm.
there's another reason so many people leave the armed forces with mental health issues, even if they have not seen war zones like Afghanistan. So it's not all inflicted by the war, it's inflicted by the conflict between who they are and who they want to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It really affects the nervous system as well. So it's almost like you're in fight or flight energy all the
Yeah.
time,
Hence the mental
as
health
well.
issues, because
Yeah.
to me, and please don't take this the wrong way, people, if we are in that fight, flight, and freeze energy enough, we will start to present like we've got ADHD.
Hmm.
Okay. So, I know I've had times where I have got total grasshopper mentality, brain fog, can't think straight, and I'm just like, "Ugh," okay. And we've got to take that time to calm the nervous system by being in feminine energy and just give it a chance to recover. Okay. And so I think a lot of the mental health issues are coming from that constant fight and flight, like you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And in relationships, it can show up as, not trusting your partner if you're with a male partner, not feeling enough, right? So, um, always perhaps looking for someone to fix things, for you as well. So maybe you're not feeling man enough, or you're not feeling good enough, or you're not feeling, productive enough, or
Yeah.
whatever, it shows up as. It's always this energy of not enough. Or you might go the other extreme and be, I can do this on my own. I don't need your help.
Mm. So
Right.
something that's just popped into my head, so I haven't thought this through, so apologies in advance. Do you think it is possible that the male narcissists are in and out of the masculine wound? And so when they're being really nice, it's when they're at home in their masculine energy. And
Hmm.
when they're doing the emotional, psychological damage or the ghosting and the gaslighting, that's when they're in their insecurity. It's like they kind of swap him backwards and forwards.
I think that's highly possible.
Mm,
Um, I think that there's a lot that comes up within the father wound that has an effect on the narcissistic behavior.
mm,
So I feel that they've got the father wound, and then they're stepping into the mother wound of nurturing and all of those things to connect to the person that they are controlling,
mm.
right? Because they're giving, attention and what appears to be love and all of those things. And then they step back into the masculine wounding, and that's when you start to see them stepping away, the bad behavior, and all of those kind of things. And that gives that two-way. When I think about the relationship that I had, it was very connected, disconnected, connected, disconnected. So when he was in his feminine energy, I would say you got the attention, you got the nice energy. But then when you were stepping into the other energy, it was nasty, it was controlling. Um, it was really, really difficult. And that's
Mm.
where the toing and froing will come. So, yeah, absolutely. I think, it's possible whether we'll actually get to the bottom of what causes the narcissistic energy. I don't know, but I think that the father wound plays a massive part
Mm.
in that energy, 100%.
And the thing to point out here, from what I see anyway, I don't know whether you see it, it's layers as well. So, for instance, you've got the father wound going on, and you're struggling with the authority and the masculinity and everything else. And, if you've got parents where the mum wears the trousers and the dad is basically emasculated,
Mm.
then you're going to get the both. And so it would then be easy for you to gravitate more towards the feminine, because that's the dominant energy in the house, but yet your soul wants that balance and needs to go to the masculine, but it doesn't have the right role model to be
Hmm.
able um, to get that balance. And so then you can end up with the mother wound and the father wound both going on at the same time. And again, you're sort of batting backwards and forthwards between the two. And so it's very much about layers. And I'm trying to think how many we've spoken about now: the priestess wound, the witch wound, the mother wound, and now we're on the father wound. So imagine if you've got all four of those going on, which is entirely possible.
Yeah.
So that's going to give you a different dynamic than if you've just got the masculine father wound out of balance, or just the feminine mother wound out of balance. So do bear in mind, if you've got multiple wounds, then it's going to be like a bowl of spaghetti. It's going to be quite messy. And it's like you've got to remove one and then rebalance, and then remove another one and rebalance. It's one of those things you can't necessarily do all of it in one go.
Oh, absolutely. There's always layers and layers and layers. And as you were talking about that, what came to me was, if we have a father figure that um, has caused the wounding, right? Because we attract everything that we're reflecting, the chances are that you've got the father that's emotionally disconnected, and then the male school teacher that is always putting you down, and then perhaps the priest that could be doing anything, which is connected obviously to the priestess wound, that you keep attracting the same kind of energy. So it's not just coming from your father energy, but you're going to see energies from the teacher and any other male that comes in to your life. So it could be your drill sergeant, it could be as you grow older, if you're not healing it, it could be any male figure that you meet and you interact with.
Yeah, it could even be your boss.
Yeah,
That's going to be
absolutely.
hell on earth.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it's so important that we know and understand all of these things so we can start to see the patterns. So, if you've had this emotional disconnection from your father, and then you've got, talking about going into the army, a drill sergeant that you just want to rebel against,
Yeah,
right? That's going to make life difficult. And then you're going to meet, perhaps, there's some really strong characters in your platoon or your group or whatever that you then start to disconnect from, right? It's going to keep repeating itself in the different male energies that you meet along the way, that you have connection with, that you spend time with.
absolutely. And just as you were talking about that, I was remembering a boss that I had, and he didn't have a massively strong masculine energy. He was quite gentle, quite laid back. So I would say that he was more towards the feminine energy.
Mm,
But his wife was very masculine energy. And
mm.
whenever they had a row, and guess who always lost, they would come to work and take it out on the people in the office.
Yeah.
he didn't feel he had the authority. He didn't feel like he was the figure, the father figure, or the person in charge. And so when he would come to the office, he would double down and be like little mini Hitler, because he needed to put his stamp of authority somewhere in his life. And
Yeah.
so he could be absolutely hell on earth on those days. You knew when they'd had a row, it was like, oh God, keep your heads down. You know, it was awful.
Yeah, yeah, and that's all about asserting himself and stepping into that masculine role that society tells him he's here for.
Absolutely. And, what I find with that is that if they're not careful, they keep picking partners like that, even when they think they're not.
Mm.
Luckily, in that instance, that's not what happened. But it's just, it impacts in so many ways without you realizing it. And then, of course, you pass it on to your children. Or if you're a teacher or a person in authority, you might give it to your students and to everybody else. So it can be very, very infectious without you realizing it. And again, there's no blame there, no judgment. It's just an observation.
Yeah, absolutely. That, we can only give our experiences and our knowledge, and there's so much more out there
Mm,
that, we haven't experienced. So, we can only really tell you what we know.
absolutely.
And, that doesn't mean that it's 100% set in stone.
No.
You can always go and do your own research as well.
And I'd love to hear if anyone has done some research and has got more to add, because
Yeah.
we only learn through the readings that we do, the work that we do, and so on. So, I know more today than I did yesterday. I'll know more tomorrow than I do today. So I'm happy to hear from other people that can go, oh, actually, yeah, I dealt with this and this and this had happened. So
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, we're doing this podcast, of course, to help you, but it also helps us to expand our knowledge, our connection, and our own understanding by talking about this, but also from hearing from you and your experiences as well.
absolutely. And, I love the fact that I do learn from my job. Even like last night, I did an evening of clairvoyance. I learned from that. I've done a couple of sessions recently, which have been mind blowingly fun. There's been aliens involved, there's been soul plan meetings involved, and it's been fantastic. And so the more I learn, the more I can share and help other people. And I know you're very much the same for that. So at the moment, I'm just starting another Zoom development circle. I've got 2 places left, I think, on that. And I'm starting a healing circle as well, because so many people are wanting to heal, but they can't necessarily afford one-to-one. So I'm putting this group thing out there. And I know I am going to learn so much from them.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to pass that on. So it's kind of like circles within circles, which is absolutely amazing.
It is. And, that's one of the reasons that I created the deck, which is now fully funded.
Yay!
Because it's not just about reading and finding out what wounds or what blocks or, what ancestral things are coming up for you. It's about healing it.
Yeah,
It gives you the reflections, it gives you the embodiment rituals, really, really important embodiment. And it gives you some light codes activations and everything else that you need to actually heal. Right. So the deck is now on my website. So it's funded on Kickstarter. It's going to the printers. So you can now purchase it from my website. So it's a whole healing system within a deck of cards. So let's talk a little bit about the healing. So, as with the mother wound, inner child work, right? Really, really important that you do some inner child work, especially if you didn't feel protected, seen, guided. And I think it's important, especially if you've had relationships where you didn't have fun with your father,
mm,
right? Or your father figure, you didn't go out, you didn't go on adventures, you didn't experience the world through childlike wonder. Inner
mm.
child work is really, really important. So that you get that fun, that curiosity. We talked a lot about curiosity last week. And reparent yourself. So be the parent to yourself that you wish you had had. So
Yeah.
protect yourself. You like build that protection so you feel safe, provide for yourself, and guide yourself.
Absolutely. And I think also because of the way the human brain works, you know the little poem about everybody hates me, I'm going to go and eat worms.
Mm-hmm.
When we're having a tough day, we don't want to hear anything positive. We just want to focus on the negative. Okay. I always use the bit from Life of Brian. You know, what have the Romans ever done for us? Nothing. Oh, they built straight roads. But yeah, apart from that, they've done nothing. The brain doesn't want to see it, it doesn't want to hear about it. So if there is a wound, like the mother wound, the father wound, whatever, the brain will feed all of the instances to you that it was an issue, and it will completely ignore all those amazing times. Okay. So as I've done my healing work, I actually now am aware of more times when my dad and I did play.
Mm.
Okay, but my dad was a hard worker, so he wasn't around a huge amount, and he was self-employed. But his job was to put food in the cupboard and a roof over the head. So he was showing his love, but not necessarily in the way that a child wants it.
Mm-hmm.
So as that work clears away all the things that are feeding that biased narrative, actually then my brain is starting to see all the good stuff and go, actually, do you know what? It wasn't as bad as my brain was telling me. It's just,
Mm.
it was only focused over here. And so, you know, you will see your life in a very different way once you do the healing, because you're removing that bias of everybody hates me, I'm going to eat worms.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. You know, you start to build on it. And when you start to write one thing that is opposite to what you're thinking and feeling, it then becomes easier to write more and more things that show that actually this isn't true. This is my opinion or what society is telling me or what my belief system is.
Yeah,
You can start to create something new that actually shows you the positive side of things. So
absolutely.
that's really, really powerful. Of course, we can heal in the Akashic records as well by removing any soul contracts, karmic ties, and the ancestral trauma.
And sometimes just literally knowing that you've got it is like an aha moment and it goes.
Yeah,
Sometimes we have to do some deeper work, which I've had with various clients. So there's no right or wrong. It is what is like personal to you. What do you actually need?
yeah,
And so, you know, it can be little things that give you a release, and
yeah.
sometimes it needs deeper work, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, you may be able to journal on things that bring things up for you that help you to understand. So, like, where do I still seek my father's approval,
Mm,
right? Or something like that. And then you can start to uncover like different elements and different energies, and then you can start to work on those so that you only ever seek your own approval,
yeah,
right? Rather than anybody else's. Or, you know, if you're struggling in a relationship with your male partner, you could journal on what are your beliefs about men or power and what am I ready to release around that, right? So
mm,
there are journaling prompts that you can use as part of the healing process. And of course, forgiveness, because we do not want to blame the father figure,
no,
right? We
no,
want
that
to
just creates another wound.
yeah, exactly. We want to take responsibility for what we signed up for, right? And we need to forgive any blame or judgment or bitterness, resentment, and all of those things that maybe we've placed on the father figure for not being who we wanted them to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, if we can change that around to thank you for giving me independence, thank you for making me respect this or to not do this, you know, so start having the gratitude. That in itself is healing. Start thanking those loved ones that challenged you, even if they're not here anymore, because spirit can still hear your thoughts and still feel your feelings, and so the healing can still happen. So don't just think, oh well, you know, my dad's dead, my grandfather's gone, there's not a lot I can do, you know, because you really totally can.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about, and we'll do a session on this, but when we talk about like the ancestral things that have come down and the ancestral blocks, you may be the person that is here to put an end to that cycle,
Absolutely, yeah.
right? So it's important that, whether your father figure is here or is in spirit, that you still do that clearing, because you may be the answer to your ancestors' prayers to break the cycle.
Yeah, very much so. Yes.
So let us know if you've got any questions, if you want to share your experiences with the father wound or any of the other woundings that we have done. So next week,
I was
we
just going to ask you about that. What have we got planned?
we could either do the prostitution wound or the sister wound.
Ooh, oh. I think that the prostitute wound is going to really resonate with a lot of our spiritual followers. Not that they were
Yeah.
prostitutes in a previous life, just because they've got spiritual businesses they're trying to either get off the ground or run. And I think they would really benefit from that. So, shall we go with that one?
Yeah, we'll go with the prostitution wound then. Yep.
Excellent.
Interesting one. Very interesting. Absolutely nothing to do with sex whatsoever.
So drop your comments on this video, inbox me, whatever. If you can leave us reviews on whatever platform you are using to connect with the show, that would be great, because it's going to help the algorithm, it's going to help
Yeah.
people find us, and it might just give them some healing that they really need.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's on both of our YouTube channels.
Yeah,
So and it will be on my Substack as well at some point.
brilliant.
Um,
Excellent.
and of course, if you want a deck,
Yes,
now's the time to order it. They will be posted at the end of October. So here in time for Christmas, beautiful Christmas present for someone.
excellent. They're going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found it really interesting, really enlightening. If not for you, then maybe someone around you. And we'll be back next week.
Yeah. Have an amazing week.
And you too.